Whether you're doing a dance to your favorite artist in the office parking lot, or being guided into Warrior One in the break room before your shift, whether you're running on your Peloton tread at your mom's house while she watches the baby, or counting your breaths on the subway.
More inhaling and long exhale out.
Peloton is for all of us, wherever we are, whenever we need it. Download the free Peloton app today. Peloton app available through free tier or paid subscription starting at $12.99 per month.
Hey, y'all, it's Garth, the Big 615. You're going to hear the newest that country music has to offer. At the same time, you're going to hear the newest that the country classics have to offer. I want to hear the new single from George Strait, and I want to hear it right beside the new single from Luke Combs. That's the thing we call the Big 615.
Download the free TuneIn app from the App Store. That's TuneIn. Or ask your device to play the Big 615 on TuneIn.
Oh, okay, take it easy. We're going on the air.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
Welcome back in, everybody. Always good to catch up with Christy Breadbinner. Softball program. Look a little bit different this coming season. Should be pretty interesting and entertaining. A little bit different, but a lot of firepower coming back, and can't wait for those, facilities and all the things that are coming for that program and postseason hosting and all that stuff. We'll check back in with Coach a little later in the offseason. If you missed any of it, go back and listen on the Odyssey app. Tommy, let's look at the Royals. A bummer last night. They blow the save. Scott Barlow does. Can't help the trade value. And yesterday, some interesting stuff with the Royals and, doing some local radio there, and tells Cody and Gold that they're basically J.J. Picola came on 610 Sports in Kansas City and told them that, if the price was right, of course they would consider trading one of their young players. We set it up there, but let's go to the IHOP hotline first. Mike's on the line. Mike's got a Royals question for us. Mike, what's up?
Hey, guys. Hey, it's cool to be on the air. Is there any chance that the Kansas City Royals make the playoffs this season? Sure, there's a lot more games to be played this year, but for sake of argument, if the Royals were to win the next 30 straight games, they'd still be below 500. Thanks, guys.
No. There's no chance that the Royals will make the playoffs.
Not a
season.
chance. No way.
No, I'll say zero. I'll die on that hill. 0% chance.
Is there a less than zero chance? Because I'll take that one.
It's just so. I mean, the only thing that might make it like 0.00001 is their division's terrible. But yeah, I mean that's the point you made there at the end, Mike. They could win the next 30 just to get to in a row, just to get to 500. So no. The real question for the Royals season, I mean, this will be, I think, the most interesting stretch of 3 or 4 weeks because it all focuses in on the trade deadline. Again, Scott Barlow blew the save last night. That's not good. But Chapman was clean in his inning of work. That's certainly good. Those are sort of the two guys. And then it just becomes, that Salvador Perez, I think, has some value. And you sort of look at that. But yesterday, again, Piccolo tells 610 Radio in Kansas City that, yeah, if a team offers the right thing for a young player, we'd listen. Oh, boy. I think that's just basically laying out what the Royals are willing to do. I would be stunned if they traded Bobby Witt Jr. Number one, I don't think you'd be maximizing his optimum trade value at this point if you did that. But teams aren't dumb. Teams know how good this guy is, and teams know how controllable he is for a long time. So, yeah, I mean, you could get a desperate team, but you're talking about a package that would have to, because I don't remember, where was Bobby Witt Jr. ranked in prospect rankings? Like, he was top 5, I think.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure when he got called up.
Sure.
So you're talking about at least getting a team's top prospect, which they're almost never willing to trade, right? And it better be like top prospect. And then a package after that of just a ton. Like the thing is, it doesn't save the Royals any money. So the prospect return on a trade like that would have to be so massive. And for a team trading for Bobby Witt Jr., he has yet to reach his potential. So you're not locked into what he's going to become yet because he hasn't been there yet. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I know there's like this contingent of Royals people pushing for this. And I would bet you it's the same contingent that would argue that Bobby Witt Jr.'s, sort of flopping this year. And I think that's crazy. I mean, the team has nothing to hang its hat on. And the other thing Bobby Witt Jr. has is that swag or whatever that is. Bobby Witt Jr. fits the profile of a franchise cornerstone, right? Like Bobby Witt Jr. and Patrick Mahomes, strictly talking about like swag or whatever you want to call it, are seem to be cut in the same mold, right? And so you're taking a massive risk if you trade him away. Massive risk. And you had better be right. It is far riskier, in my opinion, to trade Bobby Witt Jr. than to let him stay and never become that, MVP caliber player that you might envision. It's far riskier for you to trade him and him do that somewhere else. That would be staggering. And you absolutely better get it right. And it's an organization, Tommy, that almost never does. So, like, for me, as somebody that follows that team and seeing people, like, want them to do this, I'm like, what confidence do you have in this organization to get that trade right in the first place? And now that's it. Like, he's all you've got besides Salvi, who, unfortunately for Salvi, time's going to run out on that. That's it. I mean, that's all you got. Why on earth would you ever trade him?
But what's the alternative? And what kind of confidence do you have if they don't trade the young stars? I mean, I don't have confidence either way. So to me, it doesn't really matter. They could trade their entire contingent of young stars, and I would say, all right, I'll believe it when I see it. Or they could not trade their young stars, and I would say, okay, I'll believe it when I see it. Like the amount of goodwill that the Royals organization has built up in me is zero. There's nothing. There's no trust. There's no confidence, regardless of what they do. So I think that this is J.J. Picollo doing a little bit of self-preservation here, and I don't blame him. He's trying to keep his job, and so he's going to be saying that anything is on the table to try to do whatever possible to try to make them better and to keep his job. I mean, this is the literal dictionary definition of desperate times call for desperate measures, right? Like, that's really what this is. So I'd honestly, if they announced at the trade deadline that they traded Bobby Witt Jr. for a litany of young prospects that are highly well-regarded, I would say, okay. I mean, it's not going to surprise me. All right, cool. Like, they're desperate. They're doing what they need to do. If they trade Salvador Perez and they get some prospects back, I'd be disappointed, but I would say, all right. I mean, nothing else has worked, so I guess, all bets are off at this point. So really, I don't, when he said that on the radio in Kansas City yesterday, I wasn't taken aback by it. I wasn't clutching my pearls like, he can't do that. He can't. I'm like, okay, like, I understand why. He's desperate, and the entire organization is desperate.
It is, but that's my problem. It's better to have one good player than no good players, right? Like, Salvador Perez is strictly an emotional, God, I'm going to be, I really wish that he could, but that's just emotion. Like, that makes baseball sense. Bobby Witt Jr. to me doesn't make any baseball sense to trade away because there's almost zero chance you'll get the appropriate return for a lot of reasons, and one of them is he hasn't reached his full potential yet. So you're trading this guy at a value almost to the buyer. And maybe they just jack the price up so high they don't do that. And that would be my guess, is that they'll say, if you're going to trade for Bobby Witt Jr., you're going to trade on potential in what we think he'll be, and that's what it's going to take, right? You're trading for him if if he turns into, Corey Seager or whatever. Like, that's what you're trading for. And so it doesn't make any sense to me to trade him now. Like, what's the difference in trading him now and trading him next year, if that's the way you go? And he takes a step forward, and he's still way controllable. I mean, he'll still have so many controllable years. It's not like the financial gains on waiting for him to continue to develop are going to not impact the trade much. You're still going to have that in the plus column if you're the Royals, if you wait and he continues to develop, and now he's got maximum trade potential. When you talk about like a Juan Soto trade, right? They traded him. Nobody could believe it, but that's when he was at his absolute peak in value.
But you know why? You know why J.J. Piccolo is, I would suspect, at least entertaining the idea of trading Bobby Witt Jr. this year? Because he might not have the chance to trade him next year. He might not be the general manager next year, right?
John Sherman still has to sign off on everything.
I get it, but like this is strictly from Piccolo. This would be a business decision, and I'm not saying that it's the right decision to make. Although I do think, I think that if a Bobby Witt Jr. trade were to happen, it wouldn't surprise me. But I would think, okay, I'm not sure that was really the right move. That being said, though, there is an argument that can be made that getting the quantity of players in return to try to build up that farm system is better than the quality of one Bobby Witt Jr. I don't know if that's the case, and time will tell. And more than likely, Kansas City Royals fans are going to look back if they trade Bobby Witt Jr. and say, man, we let a superstar go. But it wouldn't be the first time that the Royals have let a superstar go. Think of Beltran, Damon, you name it. They've let superstars walk away before. Really hasn't always panned out, but there's a precedence for it.
It's not that that's not the savvy baseball thing to do. It might be. It probably is when you're starting from zero. The problem is you're not going to get maximum value for Bobby Witt Jr. right now. So right now, to me, is not the time to have to make that sort of difficult sky is falling decision because you haven't reached the peak potential yet of what that player could bring back to your organization. And I can almost guarantee you that when John Sherman puts his head on his pillow and has dreams of this new downtown ballpark, one of the banners and all over it is Bobby Witt Jr. I think in a perfect world for the Royals, that downtown ballpark would be the place that Bobby Witt Jr. built. And so there's a lot to consider when you think about that sort of thing. Now, Piccolo's saying it just because Piccolo needs to say it, right? Like, he doesn't want to close the door on it. But if it's not, I'm trying to think of an equitable trade, and Soto would be unfair of what we've seen in past years. I mean, I'm telling you, like, if you're making that trade now, it had better be for 4 to 5 prospects, 3 of whom are the organization's top 3 prospects, and those prospects better be like inside the top 50 kind of a trade. And number one, I don't see what team is going to be willing to do that, but that's the kind of return you had better get out of Bobby Witt Jr. if you're going to trade him.
Yeah, think of a team like the Yankees or a team like the Dodgers who typically bring in big players and can spend a lot of money and that are going to be more than likely active at the trade deadline because both teams are going to be in divisional races where they could use a hot young talent like Bobby Witt Jr. at third base, right? Or at shortstop. The Dodgers, for instance, have Max Muncy, who's injured, who's been their third baseman. Bobby Witt Jr. conceivably could go and play that third base role. I don't even know what the status at third base is for the Yankees. Is it still Josh Donaldson? Because I feel like he's kind of fallen off the face of the earth a little bit. So both of those teams would potentially have openings at one of those positions for Bobby Witt Jr. and could afford to pay him when that time comes. I think that both teams are going to be active, and I think that both teams could potentially give the Royals a pretty solid return if they make Witt Jr. available. Again, I'm not advocating for a trade. I want to see Bobby Witt Jr. blossom and flourish in Kansas City. I understand, though, J.J. Piccolo trying to save his job by doing any means necessary to try to turn this ship around and point it in a different direction. And if that means trading young stars like Bobby Witt Jr., I don't like it, but I get it.
So those teams you bring up, I agree, because they're also usually teams that have ammo in the system because they do it well. Bobby Witt Jr. this year, I mean, he helps them a little bit, right? But again, you're trying to, if you're those teams, you're also trying to reach the postseason, right? And so they may need to use that ammo to go get somebody that better helps them do that right now. To me, it makes no sense. And if that trade partner's out there, I'd be stunned. If a team like Texas, where Bobby Witt Jr.'s from, who would become an instant megastar there, had a need anywhere Bobby Witt Jr. could play, okay, maybe in the offseason, when it doesn't impact you as much this year, that might make some sense. They don't need his position. They're young and good at all of the positions that he plays. So I just don't know, like, what team at the deadline who's trying to put themselves over the edge to reach the postseason is going to look at what Bobby Witt Jr. is right now in his career and say, that's going to put us over the edge and help us win a World Series. Bobby Witt Jr. is not there yet. And again, I think his development's coming along fine. I'm not in that camp either. But it's still not there, and he's still not the walk in the door and change the trajectory of your World Series chances so much that I'm willing to give up the farm to get him. Like, the trade partner, I cannot imagine exists for what you'd want to do there. So if that's the case, and maybe it does. Look, maybe there's a smart team. Let's take, like, Tampa, for instance, who's always got good prospects and good players. And they see it as a controllable asset for a little while that they'd be able to afford. I mean, I think that's more likely than, a mega spender, because the mega spenders are going to mega spend on Max Scherzer at the trade deadline, right? Or whoever it is to try to win that World Series. It's an interesting type of need for somebody like Bobby Witt Jr. that to me makes way more sense in an offseason move than it does in a midseason move when teams are trying to start over and rebuild and have a totally different frame of mind. I just don't understand what anyone thinks is going to be there. Teams, just about every team in Major League Baseball would like to have Bobby Witt Jr. Let's get that out of the room right now. He's great. He's going to be great, I still think. But it's the right now aspect of it that doesn't make sense to me for the camp that's like, let's blow it all up and trade every single player. And while I get that to some degree, again, because it can't really get worse, and there's not really any hope on the horizon, and when Bobby Witt Jr. becomes really expensive, the hope is dwindling, right, that it's going to be there then either. So I get all of that. What I don't get, though, is doing it when he's not at his maximum value, which will happen in two ways. One, it'll be in the offseason, not in the midseason. And two, it'll be as he continues to develop. If he continues to develop this year and gets on a second-half tear, which is totally possible, then maybe you visit in the offseason. Or next year, if the development continues and now he starts to turn into that dude, which that would be about the timing for it, now you can talk about it when you've only won 20 games.
Do the Royals have the luxury to wait, though? And I don't know if
Absolutely.
They do. I don't think
Why?
they do.
What's the rush?
This rebuild has already gone on for, 6 years? I mean, if you wait until next year, and I'm not advocating to trade Bobby Witt Jr. I'm trying to think from the perspective of a general manager who's on his first year on the job and is under probably a significant amount of pressure from the fan base to at least show some kind of signs of turning this around and being active, being aggressive in some way. And if you're going to sit on your hands and sit back and wait, I can see how Piccolo thinks, man, I don't know if I've got the luxury to sit around and wait for Bobby Witt Jr. to get to maximum value. Well, I can understand that.
First of all, quite frankly, I don't care about Piccolo's desire to keep his job. Like, I think that's a different conversation, and I don't think John Sherman. I don't think John Sherman. I don't
necessarily care about it either, but that's the reality, right?
He would squash that in a second.
This is self-preservation from J.J.
Sherman
Piccolo.
would squash that in a second. Like that desperation's fine until you're talking about your franchise cornerstone. It just, like, the reason that you can wait is because nothing they would get in a Bobby Witt Jr. trade now is going to help them win the division next year anyway. So you might as well get the best possible return that you're going to get. If you're going to make that move, get the most you can get from it so that you can help facilitate a rebuild. Because right now you're not going to get the best of what you can get in a Bobby Witt Jr. trade. Maybe there's a desperate... I don't... But if I'm another team, though, I'm just not doing that. It doesn't make any sense. And if I'm the Royals, if you trade that kind of player, you better trade him at maximum value. Don't do it when he doesn't have maximum value. You'll regret it for 30 years if you don't... Like, it just doesn't make any sense. There is waiting too long, and there is going too early. But for Bobby Witt Jr., just... let him continue to develop before you make a franchise-altering move like that so that you can get the most back for him that you can possibly get. That ain't coming this year. It's not.
I mean, look, I definitely recognize that, but I also know that the fan base, as much as they love Bobby Witt Jr., they're getting restless, and there's got to be some kind of
those
sign.
Aren't reasons. Those aren't reasons.
I'm not.
To trade.
I get it, but it is a reason to at least look at whether it's maybe it's not Witt Jr., maybe it's another one of their young players or several of their young players. I want to see the Royals start to be aggressive to make some moves to get the ship turned around. That's bottom line.
I do too. That's totally, but not by trading Bobby Witt Jr. 869-1240 is the number to call. We got Paul Mills coming up, top of the next hour. We'll take one more quick break. We'll come back. We'll do a giveaway. We'll get you ready for that. Talk a little Shocker Hoops coming in just a little bit. Shohei Ohtani and his just absurd numbers this year. All coming up for you on Sports Daily.
Life comes with a lot of decisions, and it can be hard to know the right path sometimes. A therapist can help you map out what you really want, so you trust yourself to make great choices and feel excited about the future. BetterHelp offers convenient professional online therapy on your schedule, however you want it, by phone, chat, or video call. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/positive today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/positive.
Looking for an adventure? Find yours in a Toyota truck. Like a Tacoma, the ultimate off-road machine. With available crawl control, you'll tackle anything in your way. Or an electrified Tundra with more power than ever before and a spacious high-tech cabin that puts you in charge. Or go with the legendary 4Runner, always reliable and durable over the toughest terrain. No matter your adventure, Toyota has you covered. Visit buyatoyota.com for more, and let's go places.
Does an orthopedic condition or sports injury have you sidelined? Make your comeback with GW Hospital Sports Medicine. We offer services from neck to toe, including care for shoulders, hips, knees, ankles, and hands. Plus, we're the official healthcare partner of GW Athletics, the DC Furies, and the DC Revolution. Get back to doing the things you love. Learn more at gwhospital.com/sportsmed or call 888-4GW-DOCS. Physicians are not employees or agents of this hospital.